Hello everybody. In this video I want to chat with you about how we can practice the skill of graphing an equation on a Cartesian grid. So we're focusing on graphing. So the information that they would have to provide us is slope and a point, or we may see this as our equation of a line, which is known as slope point form. So the reason that it works like this is because when we have our equation, as I've said numerous times before, here is our slope, our m value, and here is our y-intercept, our b value. For the sake of this video, I'm actually going to rephrase these two terms here, and when we're graphing, to make it a little bit easier on our brains, we can think of the slope as how we move from point to point. Slope is telling us how we're kind of moving about. If it's a positive slope, like we are in this case, so if it is a positive number, we are going up as time progresses. And if it's a negative number, we will go down. So that is my shorthand for positive and negative. So this is plus VE. Okay, so slope is how we move. In that case then, we can think of our y-intercept as our starting point. So this is telling us, well, where gosh darn do we start off to start drawing? And that's where it is. It's going to be on this y-intercept. So I'm going to scoot this up a little bit, and I am going to give us our Cartesian grid. So I may have to kind of bounce back and forth covering it here. However, we're always going to start here. So we're starting with a starting point. That means we're starting at our value of -7. So when I have my Cartesian, anytime I go up and down this middle line here, so I'll kind of bolden the line for us. Anytime I go up and down this, that is our y-axis. Anything along this line, we know as our x-axis. And this point in the middle is our origin. It's at the point 0, 0. So this line told me that I wanted to start at the value of -7. So that means I'm going to go down my y-axis here. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it was a -7, which means I'm starting down here. So this is my starting point. I've got that locked and loaded. To go to my next point, though, it's telling me I'm going 4/3. For all of us, that needs a little bit of a reminder. Slope equals rise over run. So that means that to get to my next point, I have to move up 4 units and to the right 3. So we're just playing our counting game. So I've started down below here, and I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm moving to the right 3. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put a circle right there. So that is now my next point. If I want to do another one, I could just go start this time here, and then I count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I count to the right 3. 1, 2, 3, and I put a dot right there. Awesome. So I can kind of track my movement with these dashed lines, but what I really care about is drawing a straight line through my points, because whenever we draw a relationship, like we're doing right now, we care about how do our data points look. So what we care about is these points that we've been identifying. And I could find these infinitely along this line. But once we have our starting point, we put a dot, and once we use our slope to determine how we move from point to point, and then we connect our dots with a straight line, this is the basic skill of graphing an equation of a line. So this was a positive one. To give you a quick example, let's see how a negative slope would look. So I'm going to go ahead and just flip these over for simplicity's sake. Let's say for this time, we had a slope of, or we had an equation y equals negative 2x plus 4. So I've said this in one or two of my other videos. However, whenever you have a whole number, like the number 2 here, we can always imagine it as having a denominator of 1. And the reason this comes up specifically for graphing is because we have the slope of rise over run. So we care about how far to the side it's moving. If we have just a whole number like this, we can write it with a denominator of 1, and therefore this is telling us that from point to point we are going down 2 because it's negative. So before we had a positive and we moved up, now we have negative, so we're going down 2, right 1, and that's our movement. Whereas before over here, when we had 4 over 3, we were going up 4, right 3. And now we are going down 2, because it's negative, right 1. And then if we're tracking our starting point, I'm going to just say SP. Our starting point is at the value of 4. So if I'm going to once again find my axes here, this time I'm going to start over at 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to put a dot. And this time my movement said down 2 over 1. So I'm going to count down 1, 2 over 1, put a dot. Count down 1, 2 over 1, put a dot. And I can keep doing this, and I should see that all my points are kind of following a straight line. And then my last step, after I've successfully plotted the points, I'm going to take a ruler, or in this case, I'm privileged enough to do it freehand. I'm going to put my straight line, put some arrows through it. Maybe I'll go ahead and label that line for some good math practice there. I'm going to label it. And this is me graphing the line. I started at my starting point, and then I followed my slope to tell me how I was moving from point to point. So I hope that cleared up a couple questions you may have had about where we start, how we move, and how we read an equation. And I hope that that helped. So I shall talk to all of you later. Thank you very much.